come to a visit with a person of high strangeness. Today's show is Arches, and with you, Lillian Muslier. Go, Lillian.
It's that time again. Have you ever had one of those Fridays when you got up in the morning and you said to yourself, oh my, thank God it's Friday, not this time. It's been one of those days where, well, let me back up a little bit. It's been wonderful because we are done with our last winter storm, which is number 10. All our trees have just laid down. They got very tired. The other day I went outside and there was a blue jay sitting in the tree, and he was looking around seeing, trying to figure out what happened to the little leaves that he had spotted a few days before. And then of course the frost came and killed them all. And as he is sitting there bewildered, he noticed a lot of cats on the premises, and then I noticed a couple of hawks with their babies. They was trying to teach the babies how to fly. Now, please keep in mind, I have no idea when hawks supposed to hatch or fly, for that matter. And but some kind of way, I do know that hawks and blue jays, they're not always on the same side of the fence. In fact, a lot of times blue jay is breakfast for the hawks. Well, anyway, to show you how confused everything is, here is this blue jay looking for the leaves, and he notices these little hawks trying to learn how to fly. And so he starts yelling at the mother to make her aware that there were cats all over the neighborhood. And I thought, how wonderful that we can take something that bizarre and turn it into a very, very positive experience. So now let's fast forward again to today's, one of those Fridays. Because of the weather, the staff had a terrible time getting here. But like a champ they did, and then when we got here, a couple of them got stuck on the freeway between Redmond and here and couldn't get here. We have a new camera person named John, and he's helping us today, thank God. And in some kind of way, all my CG got erased. CG meaning all the things that we write things with. And so today we have to do it without all of that. But we're going to make it a fun show. When I go on the road, it would appear that I'm aimlessly driving around sometimes. But over the years, I've met wonderful people. And I don't remember if it was in 99 or 2000. It was on one of those cross-country trips that I share with you. I met a gentleman, and his name is Colette Bernard. And Colette comes from St. Louis, and a little outside of St. Louis. And on one of those trips, I ended up and ordained him. And you know, we get busy and we do our own things. And so finally, Colette wanted to come and visit for some hands-on so he could see how we do things here in the Great Northwest. And so he finally came for 1 week. He arrived in a storm and he left in a storm. But we had no studio time reserved, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share Colette with you in form of an interview we did at the house, just so to show you what difference we can make to people sometimes, even under the hardest situations. So I think I want to go to that interview I did with Cole. I call him Cole, it's much shorter. And then we'll get back to some local issues later. But it's my great pleasure to introduce the Reverend Colette Bernard to you from St. Louis, Missouri. And so we're going to key up. And thank you, John, for bailing me out. That was really nice of you. Yeah. Our new camera person, we'll take a picture of him later so you see what it looks like. And so anytime we're ready, we're going to introduce you to Cole. And I might point out some of the, at the end where I ask him what's the most important thing to him, you might pay attention to that, because I'll get back to that and tell you a really bizarre story about that.
Miss came and joined us now.
And,
just for a little background,
would
you tell me
at my
where
house.
it is that you
Cool.
came from?
Enjoy.
I flew in from St. Louis, Missouri, Wednesday night.
Hmm. And so, understand that was your first trip to the West Coast?
Certainly, certainly. It was
Mhm.
beautiful. Lovely country. Had a nice plane ride. Somewhat difficult at first. I'm not really one for flying, but it was really nice, and coming to see you was an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, and of course the wind quit long enough for us to go do some things. Now let's go back in time a little bit, if you don't mind. I have mentioned Colette to you before, and that was in reference to my visits to St. Louis and Greenville. And so it's really nice that you came my way. Now, what was your major purpose for coming? And you have to speak up because we don't have a mic
Okay,
to stick
I
in here.
understand, Lillian. My major purpose was actually to come visit you, uh, enjoy time with you, and for spiritual enlightenment. You know, we've always been close, and
Mhm.
I enjoy my dialogue with you. It's always spiritually uplifting. That was an intricate part of it as well.
Mhm. Now, given the time, we go quite a few years back.
Yes, quite a few.
Yeah. So, given the times that we live in, on a 1 to 10, what time is it to get in touch with your spiritual self, would you say?
I don't really understand this question. Could you clarify that for me?
Yeah, on a 1 to 10, eh, where, in your opinion, where are we to get our spiritual affairs in order? On a scale from 1 to 10.
that's a, that's not really a difficult question. On a scale of 1 to 10, I think people in general hold the consensus that time is winding down. A lot of things are happening, and it's a tumultuous time, and we could be, in fact, living in the days of revelations of the Bible. Probably the closing or the ending of time, but of course we know that that with any ending, that there's certainly a beginning of something anew. So,
So on a 1 to 10, where are you?
above 7 certainly.
Above
I
7.
couldn't say anything beyond that, but above 7, I would say.
Um, I'm going to put you in charge of the world. What are you going to do?
That's that's a really good one. Well, you threw me for a loop with that one. In charge of the world, that's a tremendous task. Well, I would like to see an explosion of knowledge and information and spirituality where people would gravitate toward a more meaningful existence rather than, yielding or succumbing to the materialistic concerns of life, and try to get close or closer to the Creator and be at one and at peace. And that's really what I would like to see happen. But of course, there's a lot of things going on these days. People are pursuing their own interests. Countries are exerting themselves, and it's a really hard thing to say, but things are in a sort of a disarray, and I would try to bring order to what I would say is a chaotic situation.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you're comfortable with this, I'd like to talk about, you shared one experience with me that's was kind of the beginning of your journey per se. Are you comfortable with telling that story?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you
Please
want
go
me
ahead, yeah.
Well, I would say that my spiritual awakening or coming to terms with my existence and elevating myself, I can pretty much say was tied to one event in my life. It was during a time that everything was nice and peaceful. Of course, I was making a tremendous amount of money and just enjoying life and just being free, so to speak, to do that which I willed. And and my will went pretty deep.
I'm willing to. I'm sitting here back here smoking, but it's just so you know, I'm gonna get back to the smoking thing later. Go ahead. Yeah. So back to your story here. So if you see some blue going in front of the camera, that would be me puffing in my own house.
Not a problem, Lily, not a problem.
Yeah, no, I'm talking to the viewers because we have a little love-hate relationship with our new laws. So
Okay.
we're just waiting for them to tell us we can't smoke in our own house. So so I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. I could tie the incident back to a particular time. I guess that was on or about March the 23rd of 1990. I had just gotten back from out of town. See, where did I go then? It might have been Texas or somewhere. I'm really not sure at the time. Now, where I had been since I traveled quite a bit then. But what happened was at that particular time, being a man, and men have struggles with issues, and particularly men seem to struggle with their relationships with females, and I'm no different. And you know, we at times succumb to our manly desires, and this was one of the times that I found myself with a lady of questionable character and low morals, and I guess I was at a low stage of moral issues myself. But what happened was, I found myself in what's called, say, like a transient motel with the young lady, and after I had pretty much gratified myself, I was leaving or attempting to leave that motel, and I had a real odd experience. What had occurred was that a strong feeling, a strong feeling came upon me, and almost as if I had a heightened sense of danger and awareness, and it appeared to me that there was sort of a voice speaking to me, communicating. And what it said was, don't go out that door. Someone's going to rob you. And I was, somewhat naturally embarrassed by the whole state of affairs. And what I did was I remained in like the little lobby area at that time. I was too embarrassed to call anyone to my aid. I had absolutely no protection for myself whatsoever. I was vulnerable and then just there. So I opted to just wait to see how things panned out and just be vigilant. But I guess at one point or another, I became frustrated, and I guess I only had about $500 at the time on me, so I decided that, well, I'm not going to wait around here. If I'm going to be robbed or if something's going to happen, then it won't be a great loss. So I left out of the motel, looking around, trying to see if anyone was laying in wait to perhaps rob, assault, or whatever me, And things appeared to be quite clear. I didn't see anyone hiding, and I looked pretty good as far as what I thought. But after walking down the walk, a gentleman jumped out. Well, that's a loose term for this character. You know, he was a ruffian. He was a character bent on injuring or hurting anyone, I guess, namely me at the moment. But he jumped from behind some bushes, and he had a rather large pistol. I was familiar at the time with, you know, various weapons and different things, so I knew that it was a 6-inch barrel revolver, probably a Smith & Wesson 38 caliber, and I threw my hands up and I said, well, it's not a problem. I know what's going on. I'm reaching for the money. At that time, I reached down into my pocket. I pulled out my funds, held it in my hand, and presented it to the guy. And in response, he told me, step back, throw the money on the ground. And I complied naturally. I did that, and he jumped over the fence, picked the money up, and I, for the most part, thought that that was it. He was going to pick the money up, leave, and that was it. Everything would be done, and everything would be back to normal. But it didn't occur that way. What happened was, the guy ordered me out of the gate. And by chance, my truck was parked right in front of the gate. And when we got to the back of the truck there, he fired a shot out. And somewhat confusing for me since I had complied with all of his demands. I thought that it would be over, but it didn't work out that way. He ordered me into the truck. So I sat down in the truck. I got in, I sat down, and the fellow walked around to the front of the truck, and he was aiming the revolver at the windshield there. And he had a distorted, angry look on his face, and I really didn't know why, because he had gotten what he had set out to get. So at that time, I had a bunch of keys, and he ordered me to start the vehicle. And I held the keys up high so that I could perhaps see the key that was required to start my vehicle up through my peripheral vision, because I wanted to keep my eyes on the fella. And I put into the ignition what I thought was the key to start the vehicle, but something went wrong. It was the wrong key. So the guy really looked upset and demented at this time. And a voice just came to me and just said, he's going to shoot you. He's going to shoot you in the head. And I was confused, dumbfounded, and I really didn't know how to respond, how to react to what was going on. I knew definitely that he was going to shoot me, and all I had to rely on was my faith. I had absolutely no evasive action I could take, no means of flight at the time, since I was in the vehicle and I could not get out of it before he would fire off whatever amount of shots he would. So a quiet, still voice spoke to me, and it said that he's going to shoot you in the head, and your head cannot be penetrated. Have faith. Your head cannot be penetrated. And I remember sitting there, and I closed my eyes, and when the vehicle didn't start, I saw him walking rapidly towards me. And I just sat there, and I kept stating to myself, my head cannot be penetrated. My head cannot be penetrated. And I had faith to the effect, and I heard a shot ring out. And I grabbed my head and I sat there stunned. It felt as if someone had struck me in the head with a baseball and my left hand reflexively grabbed my head, and I just sit there. My eyes were open, and everything at the moment, like there was like little black dots that seemed to expand to a point that I couldn't see anything whatsoever. Everything was dark. And then I guess whatever time period that elapsed, my vision came back to me, and I was sitting there in the truck holding my head, and I remember wondering, was I expired? What would I do next? And I just sat there until I collected myself, and then I got out of the truck and proceeded back up to the establishment that I had just left. And I knocked on the window. The proprietor of the establishment came out and wondered what had happened after he had let me in and everything. And I told him that I had been robbed and shot in the head. And after looking out, because I was still standing in the doorway, and the proprietor was there, and a lady that I guess managed his business there, and we all looked out towards my truck, and the fellow had somehow came back, and he was on the driver's side of my vehicle, and he fired 2 more shots up into the doorway.
But in essence, the bullet penetrated your head. Do you want to point?
Yes.
And I'm going to do a close-up of that.
The bullet struck me in my temple, directly in my temple, slightly above my ear, here right there. But amazingly, my head, my skull was not penetrated. It left what was a hairline crack. The bullet struck me in the temple. It went up, traveled up my skull, and it exited right there. There's a lump there right now as a reminder of that incident.
Now, you know, what I find interesting sometimes is that when talking to people, instead of just listening to what a voice or something that's trying to tell you to just go ahead and take you to that first step of enlightenment, a lot of people miss that. And as a result, they have to have a near-death experience in order to pay attention. Can you respond to that?
Well, I guess that's basically, I'm one of the people that you're speaking about, and there's been a lot of things in my life. This the most pronounced that it was really a wake-up call for me, and I learned something that night, and what I learned was that we all have a spiritual connection, and that was nothing magnificent. Some people explain it as if my time has just not arrived, but it was deeper than that. All my life there has been some sort of spiritual things that have occurred in my life, and I guess for the most part I ignored them.
Right, that's my point.
Right,
we have
right.
other things
I
to do.
definitely ignored them because I had my own agenda, and I didn't know really what to make of it. Spiritual, supernatural occurrences. We don't have a real rationale to explain them a lot of times. So what we choose to do is more or less discount them or just don't address them directly. But after that incident, I was faced with, what I had experienced and the profound intervention that caused me to be able to speak to you today. And I couldn't just discount that. The time was up for that. So
So in the meantime, many years have went by, and we've made a lot of excuse me. I'm coughing. We went to the Flight Museum, and they had a bunch of chemicals in there making me cough. So in the meantime, many years went by, and you've made some adjustments on one of the visits to your area. I managed to ordain you, I think. I did, no?
Yes,
Yeah.
you did. You did.
And so now, now that we ended up here together for some hands-on, being in this part of the country, everything being so different, is that, well, I don't even know where I'm going with this. I think what I'm asking is, you in the middle of the country, you in that Bible Belt per se, and everything's pretty much organized. So now you're coming to our part of the woods, and we a little different, the weather is different. So talk about that, and then after that, I'd like for you to kind of give us an idea of what this part of the country enhanced for you, if anything.
Well, Lillian,
Other than being cold.
being here with you, it's always a pleasure. It's always a spiritual enlightenment associated with our relationship. So I've seen, in addition to a beautiful country, I've seen beautiful people in regards to being more spiritually inclined towards what is not what we would say is, like in the term, the Bible Belt.
Yeah, regimented.
Specific, exactly. Regimented ideas and beliefs that we have to adhere to a certain mode of thinking. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not pressed into a mold here.
Yeah.
There's a little more latitude, to be able to express your spirituality from what I can see. And, it's a lot different, really. And I find myself, being a minister now, and I want to administer, and I've started by the way, my ministry in St. Louis. It's in its infancy stage right now, but there's a lot of things that I would like to do in regard to, say, aiding and assisting, people. I see the church as having a paternalistic and a maternalistic role in the community, in which, you truly help people. And in helping people, you have to break out of the molds that people try to press us into. Specifically, in my area, if you're not specifically speaking about Christianity.
Can you hold your thought?
Yes.
Well, always the phone is ringing off the hook, and we had to stop the film, so I'm going to get you back to your thought, and sorry for the interruption, but I had to take this call. Oops. So go ahead. And so we were talking about the churches and how this is portrayed.
Right.
Okay.
If you're not specifically, say, like, adhering to, say, like, Christianity, which is, by the way, it's a portion of the Bible Belt there. If you're not talking about specifically Christianity, if you're not specifically speaking about Christianity and Jesus Christ, then you can run into difficulties. People either don't want to hear a lot of things that you're saying, or say that you're blaspheming, or
They want to exercise you right out of their neighborhood.
yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah, it can get to be
Yeah.
quite unsettling, but my understanding is, like, with all of the religions and the different dogmas that has been presented to the world, to me, it is a sort of a mosaic type of a deal there. You know, like no one holds exclusive rights over the truth. You know, you have to glean the truth wherever it is, you know, and you have to humble yourself and bow down to the truth wherever you see it. And it doesn't matter whether you are a specific denomination, you know, like the Muslims want to say that the Christians is following the wrong path and that they're destined to destructions and vice versa. You know, every other religion pretty much, you know, state that if you're not following them, you know, their dogma, then you're along the wrong path. And that's, you know, I find that somewhat confusing if we can assert that we all come from the same creator.
Yeah, see,
You know?
I'm aiming very hard at keeping the shows politically and religiously neutral. And so I think in part where I was trying to go with this was we went to the open ocean, even though it was really cold. You see the tall trees and things, and in my travels sometimes I can take different parts of the world or different events and work it right into what it is I'm trying to portray to people.
Yes.
And I think what I was after was some of the things that you've seen, not that we have done a lot. Do you think you're going to be able to incorporate that into what you're going to pass on to your parishioners?
Certainly, I'm going to try. Specifically, you know, we've talked a lot about the Indian cultures and religions, and I've studied a lot of the ancient civilizations and what they espouse as being their truth. And I find that I can find truth in each and every one of them. And my understanding is that the nexus between them is the most important thing, to try to find out what the similarities are, rather than the differences which tear us or break us apart, so to speak. We need to find the connection that ties everything together so that it would be of an acceptable nature to everyone, and then everyone could accept the beliefs of other peoples, other nationalities, without being in a judgmental type of a frame of mind.
Now, we're going to have to take a little breather here because we're at the end of the tape. And actually, we had a chance to go visit with Randy Shaw at the Vanucci. How did that go for you?
It was nice, enjoyable, yes. It really was.
They were at the tail end, they're getting flooded really bad. And but they came out of that now. I understand you're taking care of your mother.
Yes, I do. Her name is Odessa Bernard. She stays with me. I've been taking care of her, I believe, ever since 2000, the year 2000. She's 96 years old. She's a pretty feisty lady. You know, she's not as active as she used to be naturally, you know, because she's much older. She's still fairly lucid, gets around relatively well for a woman her age.
So between holding down a full-time job and taking care of your mother and doing your ministry per se, you got to juggle quite a bit, huh?
Yes, quite a bit. Plus, I'm in the process of trying to remodel the home, and it draws a lot of finances, you know, consumes my time, and physically exhausts me. Physically exhausts me, and that's a loose term for it, because it's much more than that. It's mentally, emotionally, physically, financially draining. Yes.
Well, one of the things I admire about you is, regardless of what three-dimensional things are thrown at you, you seem to have that strive to continue your work, you know, anyway, and I think that's really commendable.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we enjoyed the ride plane. good?
Oh yes, and I'm not accustomed to flying or anything. Um, it was a really good experience. Anytime that you face a challenge and you know you fly through it pretty good, and flying was what I did. And I'm a land man. I'd rather be on land. Give me land under my feet. Secondary, water, and the last option is flying. But I had to get here to see you, and I couldn't take 4 or 5 days doing it. So
Yeah.
I had to fly.
Now suppose, okay, let me ask you this. We have a lot of young viewers in the audience. What would you say to them as far as reaching their goals, or what advice do you have for them, life is pretty not so good for some of them now. What's your advice to the young people how to go from point A to point B?
Okay. The best words that I could say to a young person is, first of all, learn patience and perseverance.
And then they'll say, what's that?
Okay, patience is, you can't do it all at once. You have to measure yourself in what it is that you want to do, and a reasonable amount of time that you give yourself to achieve that. And perseverance, is the ability to stick to it, whatever the obstacles that might find themselves in your path. Don't lose faith in those things that you really want to do. But the most important thing is to find out who you are. Find out who you are, and that's a task within itself. And stick to making yourself who it is that you would like to be, and keeping in mind what purpose you think that you have. That's an intricate part of it, because it's not just a selfish thing of what you want to do. It has everything to do with what you're supposed to do.
Now I understand you're going to go and try to catch a ferry, because you want to be on the water.
Yes. Yes, certainly.
Yeah. That's one thing we couldn't accommodate you with here in Olympia. And other than you looking forward to your ferry ride, which was the highlight from our little visit here? Yeah, that's what I want to know.
The highlight of my visit, Lillian, was sharing this time with you.
Oh, how nice.
That was the highlight.
Now, I did not tell him to say that.
Secondarily, it's what I've learned, and you taught me some interesting things just in this
Quantum touch.
Oh yes, that quantum touch. You've prophesied for me in regards to what my abilities are, my talents, and innate ability that the Creator gave me.
I like for you to know he did quantum touch and blew the TV.
That's
He did,
certainly, and it amazed me.
Yeah, but that was for you, just to let you know you were right on, you were doing it. Yeah. So back to your thought, I always interrupt, and we have like a little over 2 minutes, so you can talk about anything you want to. No, it's not.
Not a lot of time.
This hour goes by so fast.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
As if it's got wings.
Wings, yeah.
But you were asking me earlier, and I would like to say to the young people, as I mentioned about perseverance and patience and things, there is a lot of obstacles, particularly that young people face, and they really don't know how to confront it, but you have to deal with the realities of things, and you have to strengthen and fortify yourself. But most of all, try to get all of the information that you can. Information is power. And the more information that you get, the more intelligent decisions that you can make about your life, how you impact others' lives, and different things of that nature that will set you on your course. You know, because basically we're navigating through treacherous waters. And there's numerous obstacles that we have to avoid. You know, some are fortunate not to have many in their lives. Others, a multitude. You know, but whatever it is that you have to face, get the information and deal with it, and be patient and persevere. You know, those are the keys that I could say, which helped me and kept me on the path to get better and wiser, and to live as long as I've had.
So the phrase that everybody's using now, whatever, can actually be rather positive.
Yes, it can. Yes,
Yeah.
It can.
Yeah, it's just always an amazement when you hear people talking. They say, and whatever, you can just kind of fill in the blanks. And most of the time they're negative, right? Yeah. So.
Yes, for the most part.
For the most part. I'm really glad I'm over time, but that's okay. I'm really glad you got to visit with us. I hope we'll do it again soon. And yeah, I thank you very much for coming. And as far as the viewers, I'll see you next week with another story. We're going to try to put some insights in here for you, and then I'll be back after a while. So thank you, Colette.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
You're welcome anytime. Bye-bye.
Interesting thing was I intended to make this a separate show, but then as it turned out, I brought it into the studio here. I like for you to remember when he talked about patience and perseverance. Now, we got a rental car and we drove 700 miles locally. We went to the Maimar Mountains, we went to the ocean, everybody got sick. And but he was very determined to go on a ferry. I wasn't willing to do that. And so we put him in the airporter. He went to the airport. He floated around the Sound all day and then spent the night at the airport in order to catch his plane to go to St. Louis on the next morning. So we was kind of laughing because he really had to practice patience and perseverance. And if you remember, he came to learn something, so that was one of the things that we had a really good time with. Now, we went, like I said, we went to the Maimar Mountains in places, and it's amazing how people from other parts of the country see our area, because the temperatures was a big issue. It said 41, but he thought it was felt like 0 at the time. And on the tape, I made reference to my smoking. And to remind you on some of the shows that is not produced here in the studio, I smoke. And that is my way of retaliating about the fact that constitutionally I should have freedom to smoke if I wanted to. However, we have the new laws, so I want to give you an update and give you an update on that. Because we drove all over the place, we got a chance to talk to some people about the smoking issue. As it turns out, a lot of the non-smokers are really irritated with the whole thing because they feel that some kind of way they wasn't aware of the fact that a lot of the cigarette taxes are paying for things. For the friends that's not in Washington State, in the meantime, schools are being closed because the funds are just not available. Parks have been closed. If you go to my webpage, there would be highstrangeness.tv. We have listed articles along with the newsletter I write once a month, and we have a little corner we call the Butt Patrol because that's what we have now. And so I think the point I'm trying to make is before we look at things, we should always look at both sides of the issues. I'm going to stop here for a minute. Chemtrails was the other lesson that Cole had. These chemtrails came, somebody sent me, And look what's behind me. We don't know what this is. These pictures of chemtrails were taken in, excuse me, Little Rock, Arkansas, which is not too far from the Little Rock Arsenal over there. And we, as we put it up, we saw something there. So somebody thought it was a flying horse. Might be a cigarette butt, I don't know. But isn't it amazing? We spotted that on that photo there. And chemtrails, that was one of the things we explained and everything. And back to the smoking issue here. Before we vote and before we do things, please look at both sides of the issue, because sometimes it just doesn't work out. And what is so sad that some kind of way we've been put in a position now. A few months ago, we were the red and the blues, and now I see open hatred between people because they're smokers or non-smokers. And then, of course, rumor had started that Native Americans was responsible for the whole thing. I would like for you to know that is not true. And if you can see, I'm wearing one of the fundraising shirts from the Nisqually tribe for their school because they had gotten flooded. So we should not blame anything on anybody other than the fact that we did not read all the paperwork when it came to voting, and now we just kind of have to live with it. And again, I smoke on all my shows except the ones we do here, and that is my way of letting you know that I do have the right to do that even if I was a non-smoker. So much for the butt patrol. We went to the Capitol. It's up and running. Some of the senators were there. That was funny too, because I talked to some of them, and they didn't talk about issues. What was important to them was the weather, that their feet hurt. The ladies were having trouble with their undergarments. Some of the gentlemen had problems with their ties, and so it made me think how bizarre to take somebody into an open session, actually, and then when you talk to them in private, they are just people, you know, that sometimes is misinformed too. The prediction show is on the website. You click on it and you can watch the whole prediction show there. And Bernie said I could pick this up at any time. This is, I know, it's big. It's big. One of the gentlemen that I met on the road, let's see, where am I? Which way am I going? One of the gentlemen that I was on the road, he has the museum, the Rock Museum in Idaho, and he sent me this, what is it? Amethyst. Except it keeps changing colors, and it is just so big that we're going to use it as a healing stone, I believe, because it's too big to wear, but I think it is just enormous. Let me see if I put it here with that chemtrail and turn it into a fly and something. But it is just enormous. As you can see, it's a diamond cut, and it changes color. And with it, he wrote me a little note saying that he thinks I should have it because it did weird things. He talked to a chemist about it, and the chemist didn't even know why it was doing what it does. And so I'll keep you posted on what it's going to do, but thank you for my stone, Bob. So I'm going to put it back up here where Bernie had it, just like that. My email is going to change. We have changed websites because Google keeps interfering with our website and blocking it, so you can't get in sometimes. So give me a call. Once we get the graphics fixed again, I'll show it. And that's all the stuff that I know to tell you about. We talked about Bernie getting married. And I don't know if his mic is on or not, but Bernie, from what I understand, you're still on your honeymoon, are you?
Well, Lillian, I am enjoying this this lady. I actually married when we got married, she was more of a stranger because we had only known each other for about 2 weeks, but we are getting to know each other very well. We're married, and we think we're going to last for a long, long time.
That's great. Yeah, so you keep us posted on that, huh?
Yes, we will.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for working your magic today, because it's a Will Try on Friday, you know.
Yes, it is.
And so cool, thank you. And so they, from Bernie himself, so it's not gossip, from the man himself. Like I said, we have a new camera person, he's brand new. And you just, John, you just started working here, did you?
Yeah.
Like
I
it?
took training, then I was volunteering for positions and shows, and I like it.
I don't know if you heard him, but he was looking for positions and shows, and guess he ended up with us here part-time, so we appreciate it. Eventually we're going to take a picture of you so we can see what you look like.
Okay. Great.
And spring, we have 2 more days for spring, so this is actually going to happen. We have an eclipse. Politics is a little hectic, so you might want to keep track of that. And mainly, you know, love your neighbor, love yourself, because we got some trying times coming. And I want to tell, from what I understand, Colette is going to try to air the show in St. Louis somewhere. And for the friends there, I want to let you know, anytime you want to come visit us on our part of the earth here, you please come and do that. Also like to point out to the St. Louis people that to remind you that you do have Cahokia Mounds, which is a sacred place and a wonderful area to go visit and collect your thoughts. We, on my end, have what is called the Maima Mounds, and we've done shows about that. And so some kind of way, on a spiritual level, many people can interconnect. My friend Catherine has, since our last show in here that we mentioned anything, my friend Catherine has been from Missouri to Pocahontas, to the Friends at the Lighthouse, and she went to Kansas City, and now she is in Arkansas, and it's the place in Arkansas that our chemtrails came from. I now have a picture cell phone, and the other day somebody saw some earthquake clouds and zapped those pictures to me. So just to let you know, you can now send me pictures by telephone. And I don't know how I ever lived without that telephone, so just so you know. And in the meantime, I think I'm going to California, here in a few weeks. And the rest of the time, I intend to stay local a little bit this summer. So if you'd be nice enough to call us and come and do some local shows with us, because we have just went through 19 weeks of travel shows, and no-brainers, I call them. We have a new friend in Gaylord, Michigan, and so welcome. And let's see, we added one more person. Yeah, Bliss, Idaho. And so we just keep getting bigger and bigger, our family here again. Chemtrails from Arkansas. And we had requested a while back to get calls if you see some chemtrails, because what we've noticed is that different shapes actually create different scenarios for people. What you see back there, that's sort of what I call a spine type thing. And we have noticed people to get very aggressive when you see a formation like that. On the other hand, there's the puffy type that makes you happy. Of course, it's beyond me to try to explain who's doing what and why and how come. And all I know is we just happy in Washington State that winter is over and it's going to quit blowing at us. And I don't know how I am for time, but this has been an interesting day today. And we got a couple hours to go here, and we're getting ready to celebrate equinox. We have an eclipse. Go to Planet Alert on my website, and here's that flying horse again, the flying butt again. I need to thank Paula Boyd for allowing me to use that. And some of our sponsors are on the road. The people that helped the Katrina survivors are back, and hopefully they'll come and tell us some stories. And I don't know what else to tell you here. It's just been a long day, and No noises, no rain. And let's see. You have anything you'd like to add? You have to talk real loud or give me some that's important to you. Since you're the new person, you get to pick.
I don't really know.
Oh, he doesn't know anything. Okay, we're not really better off than we was. And we gotta go anyway. So we see you next week. John, think of something next week. And happy journeys. In the background, closing music is Andrew Graham from Olympia, Washington. Thank you for letting us use the music. And we'll see you next week. Bye. That call.